Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Today it's an interesting day because today is the 16th episode. Who would have known we would have come so far? And thank you to everyone who has been coming to the stream week after week after week, listening to not just me, but really it's my guests who come on. Today, we have something pretty interesting, right? As always, every fourth session, I'm here on my own to share my thoughts about something that's important to me and something that's it's related to healthcare. But this episode is slightly different because it is related to a quote. And this quote actually came from an article produced by the NUS Pharmaceutical Society. The link is actually in the description. So if you haven't read it, you should go and read it. Right? And it was put together by a group of lovely students together with their lecturer, Dr. Cheng Hui-Ting. I'd like to start today's session with a story. And this story actually happened in the 1930s. So in the 1930s, there was a group of Hungarian soldiers, and they were out in the Alps Mountains. So the commander sent them on a day expedition in this really snowy kind of environment. Halfway through, a snowstorm hit them, and everything was messed up. They lost a lot of belongings. They had no resources. They had nothing. There came a point where they had to do something, but they didn't know what to do. Some of them said, oh, why don't we just start walking and find our path? Others said, no, you can't do that, because if you do that, you're just going to get killed. You're going to die. But what could they do? They couldn't find their maps. They didn't have their belongings. And out of desperation, they emptied everything that they had. And out came a map. And the map was essentially a game changer for them. Because with that map, they believed that they had a way back to the camp. And they started their journey step by step by step. Eventually, they agreed. And when they followed the map, they got back to camp, and the commander was really excited to see them. And the commander said, wow, during the debrief, where exactly were you? So the soldiers took out the map, and they drew where they were, and they drew a line way back to camp. The commander took a look at the map, and the commander said, that's a map of the Pyrenees, not the Alps. And it was essentially the wrong map. So what do you think is the lesson from this story? We're going to discuss that. And today's episode, it is the 16th episode. We are 4 months in. It's the 16th episode of Life, Love, and Lipidemia. I'll see you guys in a while. Hello, welcome back. So, Kevin is here. Hi, Kevin. Welcome to Life, Love, and Lipidemia. This is a show where I'm on actually every Sunday at 3 o'clock. I bring on guests, some from pharmacy, some are other healthcare professionals, and some are from professions that are not related to healthcare. And through these conversations, we speak to them, we learn from each other, and see how we can be better as healthcare professionals, especially in the fields of communication. How can we communicate our ideas better as healthcare professionals? Every 4 sessions, I come on myself to share my thoughts. And being the 16th session, here I am. Hi, Hui-Ting. Good to see you here. Thank you for coming back to the stream. So today, the topic really is on action. Right, there's this quote that came to me. It's been with me for a while, and it's actually this. All right, dreams are free, talk is cheap, and action is king. Some of my friends asked me, well, how do you piece this thing together? And when I thought about it, it actually came from different sources. Some of them were friends who were in business, and they were telling me, everybody can dream, everybody can talk, but very few people actually get something done. So today I'd like to spend a bit of time sharing with all of you what are my thoughts on taking action and what are certain processes that go through my mind as I try to embark on a different journey, as I embark on things that sometimes make me a bit uncomfortable, right? And at the end, let's see if any of these tips are actually useful for you. Raymond is here on the stream. Hello, Raymond. All right, so there are three things I want to share and three thought processes that I generally have when it comes to taking action. Right, so sometimes what I feel holds us back from taking action, it comes from the fact that the thing that we are doing is actually not very exciting. And over the years, I've actually done quite a few of things that I'm actually not really excited about. And when I look back, here's the most important thing I realized about all these things, right? You don't have to enjoy something to do it, right? And here's why. Because when you think about an event, right? When I think about the end product of a project that I'm doing, the end product is usually nice. The end product is usually fulfilling. It is satisfying. But when you think about the journey before that, the pathway to get to success, it is seldom that exciting. I mean, think about it. When I organized the family carnival for nutrition with all the families and they came by on a weekend to spend some time with our team's nutritionists as well as active SGs, sports facilitators. When you see the smile on the faces of the kids and the families, it's a feeling of fulfillment that's really just hard to describe. It's just happiness. But no one actually thinks about what happened before the event. When we were rushing like crazy to plan for the event, we were rushing all the logistics, the intricacies of the setup, the nights before, when we had to iron the tablecloths through the night, partially because we didn't realize that ironing would take so much time. But we did not sleep through the night because we were trying to iron it. That's not fun. It's really not fun. When sometimes we win a tournament, we achieve a result, nobody thinks of the preparation that goes on before that. Nobody sees the late night runs when everyone else is resting. I'm running on the track, just trying to be that little bit fitter. And when people tend to say, hey, you know, Sean, you have a certain way of interacting with patients and it's really nice, it's really engaging. That is the end product itself. But not many people actually see the process that goes on behind that. The process where when you end work and you're dead tired and you go into the train, you sit down, you just want to sleep or you just want to watch your YouTube videos. But I had to make myself stop and think and reflect and ask myself, how did my day really go? And when I do that and I realized that it was actually not the perfect day, there's something I could have done better. I have to make myself, through that tiredness, think of a better way to phrase a sentence to the customer. Think of a more respectful way, a kinder way, a more compassionate way of reacting. And when you put that all together, that then comes the comment, hey, there's something different about you in the way that you communicate with patients. All right, so how do you start to do something that might not be enjoyable? All right, and there are a few things. So firstly, for me, what helped a lot is this. It's essentially a changing of a mindset, right? From rather than telling myself, hey, this thing sucks, this thing is really tiring, I change it to, I am one step closer to achieving the goal. All right, and when you tell yourself, I am one step closer to achieving the goal, it becomes a celebration rather than pain, rather than something you don't enjoy. And it reminds me of one of the coaching, not the coaching sessions, the counseling session I had with one of my clients. And it's one of the things that we tell them as well. You know, when every time you stop smoking, yes, there is a craving, But how do you see that craving? How do you see that difficulty? You could see it very easily as, oh, this sucks. This is so difficult to do. Or you can see it as, this is a celebration because I am getting one step closer to achieving a healthier lifestyle, to achieve being a better role model for my kids. Right? So it's changing what you're telling yourself from this sucks to I am one step closer to achieving the goal. All right. And when you think of what the goal actually is, it is helpful if the goal is something bigger than yourself. I remember in episode 13, we had a music therapist, Shu Ying, and she came on, and one of the questions that got me really thinking a lot is, when you do something, what are you doing it for? Is it for yourself or is it for the patient? Right? If it's for the patient, the intention is usually stronger and you might stay in the game a little bit longer. And then sometimes people say, maybe I don't really know what to do because this is something I've never done before. It's painful. I've never done it before. Then how? There was this story. It's actually a story by an Olympian, all right, Ben Hunt Davies. He was actually part of the UK Olympic rowing team. Now, the UK Olympic rowing team has never won gold in a long, long time, right? And of course, they weren't really favorites, but they were training hard as always because they knew that a big part of getting the result that they wanted came from very strong preparation. But they also knew that if they did the same thing over and over again, it's just really, really tough to expect a different result. So as a team, they use a guiding principle in their preparation. And that guiding principle really is to ask themselves this one question before they started doing anything. Right? And the question is this: will this make the boat go faster? Before every training session, sometimes it's a grueling training session, they would ask themselves, will this make the boat go faster? And unfortunately, yes. So they did it and they went through it and they survived. In the nighttime, when their friends asked them, oh, would you like to go to the pub for a drink? The question that they would ask themselves is, will this make the boat go faster? And unfortunately, the answer was no. So they did not go for the drinks. And at the end of the day, true enough, they won't go that year. So when you know that you have to take action on something, right, whether you like it or not, the question that you might want to ask yourself is this: will this help you achieve the target that you want to achieve? And if the answer is yes, then ask yourself the next question: what is the first step to take? Because the first step is always the hardest. Right? And what do you need to do to take the first step? To me, it comes down to this thing called enthusiasm. And enthusiasm doesn't always mean jumping and screaming and rah-rah and all of that. Sometimes enthusiasm really is getting from your room to the door to put on your running shoes. And if you know what I mean, sometimes once you put on your running shoes and you go out, running is not really the problem. The biggest hurdle is getting from your room to the front door. It's the same thing for me when I started work in the past. Working at the pharmacy is dead tiring sometimes. At the end of the day, you just want to stop talking to people, go back and sleep. Right? But the moment I get myself to the courts, playing squash is not really the issue. All right. So again, the first thing that I realized when it comes to taking action, you really don't have to enjoy something to do it. Right? And how do I cope with it? Well, I changed the things that I tell myself. The first thing I tell myself is, and instead of saying this sucks, I tell myself I am one step closer to achieving whatever goal. All right. And the second thing I ask myself, will doing this help me achieve the target? And if it does, I do it. And that is from the story of, will this make the boat go faster? All right. So that's the first thought that I have. The second thought that I have is in terms of taking action is this. A lot of times people don't take action because they're waiting for the perfect product to launch. They're waiting for the perfect moment to launch something. They're waiting for the perfect moment to start something, waiting for the perfect moment to ask a question. But really, how many times have you said, yes, I want to do this. Yes, I want to get this done. But I'm a bit busy now. I will do it later. Or I want to do this, but I'll do it when I am free, when the time is right, when the market is better, when the conditions are right, when the stars align. The condition will never be right to start to do something. Right? If I waited for conditions to be right, the business would never ever be set up. And honestly, the first time when I started the business, I did not really know what I was going to do, other than it would maybe be something to do with healthcare and communications. But I didn't exactly know what to do. If I waited for everything to be perfect, I would never have started Life, Love, and Lipidemia. And for those of you who might not know the story, my fear really is actually live streaming. I've never done live streaming in my entire life. It started because I just wanted to inspire a group of students. It's not even a project from my organization, it's from another organization. But I wanted to inspire a group of students to understand their role as pharmacy technicians. So other than, this is the non-technical side of it, where we let them know their place and give them motivations and thoughts and ideas on what it means to be a healthcare professional. And slowly it evolved into the conversations that we have today. How would we have gotten here today if I waited for the perfect moment? When the mic is perfect, when the lights are perfect, when the sound is perfect, when the intro is perfect, we wouldn't have gotten here. Before you know it, we are 4 months into the road, 16 episodes. Woo! All right, and I remember there was once in the pharmacy where I knew that one of the first things I had to do when I started in pharmacy was to learn how to speak Mandarin. Right? It's not that I cannot speak, right? I mean, I took my O levels, my AO levels in Chinese, did okay, but I don't speak a lot of Mandarin because at home it's all English with my parents. I only spoke Mandarin to my grandma when she was around, but ever since my grandma left, no more. So there was once I told myself, wow, what do I need to do to be able to pick up Mandarin in the quickest way, right? Because if I don't pick up Mandarin, I can't communicate with my patients. And I said, okay, maybe I should watch more dramas. Maybe I should read Chinese newspapers. Then when that is done, then I can start speaking Mandarin in the pharmacy. Then after a while, I thought, a bit slower. Why not I just give it a shot? So I remember there was this Chinese lady who came by, and he was like, 小弟啊，我要买避孕的药。I said, huh? 避孕的药. All right, so I took a box of motion sickness medicine and I gave to her and I said, oh, 这个坐飞机之前半个小时吃一粒. And then she stared at me like she was lost. And I was like, oh, 你是讲避孕的药？哦，那个不可以，那个要看医生。And she just rolled her eyes and she walked away. For those of you who did not understand, she was actually looking for a morning after pill, but I actually gave her the motion sickness pill. And she just rolled her eyes and she walked away. I was like, oh my goodness. Another time where I had a row of patients at my pharmacy and I was talking to this uncle in front of me and I was trying so hard to speak in Mandarin because it was so uncomfortable for me. And after a while, the uncle looked at me and said, boy, you know I can speak English, right? I said, yeah, hey, uncle, don't like that lah. Help me lah. I'm trying to learn my Mandarin. Yeah, very busy now. You try on the person behind. I got to go. Okay, sorry. And that's kickstarted my process of being comfortable with Mandarin. Now I can do it much quicker, much faster, much more comfortable at it. But if I waited for the perfect moment to start, I would never, ever, ever, ever have started. All right, so you really just have to take the first step. Okay, and if you want to get something done, don't wait for the perfect moment. make a commitment to do something like right now, not later when I'm more free. You will never be free, right? There will always be reasons not to do something, but make a commitment to do something right now, right? And anyway, any big goal that you want to achieve is essentially a series of multiple small goals, right? What's the first small goal that you need to hit? That's your first step, all right? That's the second thing. No point waiting for the perfect moment. Take action right now. And the third thing is this. Sometimes what prevents me from wanting to take action is actually a deep fear, all right? It's a fear of, if I do something, what will people think about me? If I do something, what kind of consequence will there be? You know, will I fail? Will I be embarrassed? And it happens to me quite a few times because perhaps I have the fortune of being offered opportunities and things where I've never done it before. And I tell the people who offer me the role, I never done it before, but they say, we believe you can do it. So I say, okay, I will try. But truthfully, I'm scared. So then I remember a show that I watched a while back. It's a movie. It's titled We Bought a Zoo, right? It was starring Matt Damon. So in this show, there was a young boy, I think it's 13 or 14-year-old boy. And he liked this little girl called Lily. So one day he was speaking to his dad and he says, I don't dare to tell her how I feel because he liked this girl, right? And, I was standing there and it was so difficult. And I'm embarrassed if I say something and I'm embarrassed if I don't say anything also. So the dad, which is played by Matt Damon, actually smiled and said, son, sometimes all you need is 20 seconds of insane courage. Like literally 20 seconds of embarrassing bravery. And I promise you something good will come out of it. And then he brought his son to the restaurant. And he said this, there I was many years back, walking past that exact table that you see there. And suddenly, I just stopped. And sitting at the table was the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. But I was nervous. I never done anything like this before, never spoken to a stranger before. And I thought to myself, 20 seconds of insane courage. And I was terrified. I went up to her. I looked at her and I said, excuse me, why would an amazing woman like you even talk to someone like me? And she looked at him and she smiled and she said, why not? And that lady became your mom. So if you were in a challenging situation where you are afraid to take action for fear of judgment, for fear of whatever, what if you had 20 seconds of insane courage? What would you do? And what would that do for you? Recently I was conducting a communications mastery program for some of the NUS pharmacy students. It's a program that I designed together with some of the professors in the university. And I had the fortune of working with some of them on a one-on-one basis. But one of the things that I always told the students is this. If you want to improve the relationship that you have with your colleagues, with your bosses, with your managers, with your professors, then what do you have to do to make it happen? And it's like, yeah, we know that we have to go and approach them, but yeah, we are very shy, I'm introvert, this is not me. And I said, okay, what if you had 20 seconds of insane courage? What would you do? right? And the results were amazing. Towards the end of the program, when we were getting reviews, when I was reading some of the feedback and hearing some of the things that the students were saying, like, before the program, I never knew that I would be able to do this. I never knew that I would dare to go up and speak to my managers. I would never go and speak to people that I don't really know. I would never dare to speak to my friends or my fellow interns who I've never really spoken to throughout my entire 4 years. But what really helped me is 20 seconds of insane courage. What would that do for you? Towards the end of the program, we had a student who wrote a lovely email of appreciation to her professors. She said to keep it confidential, but somehow the email got sent to chief pharmacist, ex-chief pharmacist, head of department, and some staff from the Singapore Pharmacy Council. All right, and she's like, oh my God, how come the email spread until like that? I thought I said keep it confidential. But it was very, very, very well received because it was a very beautifully written email and very, very gracious of her. So, and I was chatting with her and she said, before the program, I never thought I would ever have the courage to share my thoughts in, and how I feel. So really, the effort actually came from her. It was essentially 20 seconds of insane courage that allowed her to share her views. And by that time, in fact, really, in life, whether you choose to speak up or not counts for something, right? Because those who speak up tend to get hurt more. But choosing not to take action or choosing not to make a decision is a decision in itself. Choosing not to speak up sends a message in itself. Right? And if you have 20 seconds of insane courage, what would you do? During the past session with Kevin, and Kevin was sharing his journey as he ventured out of clinical pharmacy and he was communicating with his bosses. It was courage that made him go to his boss and say, I'm looking for a different role. I'm looking to expand my responsibilities. And that gave him the opportunities that he has right now, stuff that he would never have gotten if he stayed the way he was. During Joe Alessandroni's session on session 14, 2 weeks ago. So Joe owns a bar and he spoke about gaining the courage to build a relationship with his guests. And really because he sees the aim of all of this as making your guests feel comfortable and making them feel like they are being taken care of. And that's up to the professional to provide that level of warmth, that level of comfort. If you are working in a community pharmacy, if you don't go forth and take action to approach patients, how are you ever going to build any relationship with them? How are you ever going to showcase your skill set? How are you ever going to gain the appreciation and the respect that you wish you had? Right? I honestly, I've never felt that in my career, or if ever, it was just a very small fleeting thought that I don't even remember now. It was hugely, largely, very rewarding for me. And I mentioned that in the article in NUS Farm Connect. Why? Because I took the action to go forth and approach customers and show them what I had. Scary at first? Of course it's scary. Many of you know that I went into the profession with not the best grades ever. That itself was terrifying, but I tried. And for those of you who happen to be going into pharmacy or starting clinical practice, I'll share a tip with you. You can learn more from your patients than you ever thought. It just takes sometimes a few questions and engagement to understanding them. I learned so much from my patients. If you are thinking of starting a new service, if you are thinking of doing a new project in healthcare, Are you going to wait for that perfect moment before you raise a proposal? You know, if you keep waiting, if you don't manage that fear of rejection of that proposal, how will we ever create a better version of everything that we have now? The first proposal that I created, it was when I was a pre-registration pharmacist. Just graduated, went in, made a presentation to the CEO during a tea session. In 12 seconds, he shot it down. Was I scared? I was damn scared. But I did it anyway. Right? So it just gave me the platform to become braver. And what if you had this level of courage? What would it do for your career? What would it do for your job? What would it do for your team? What would it do for the profession that whatever you are doing? Right. So at times when we are uncomfortable, at times when we are scared, at times when we are worried about what other people think of us, ask yourself, right? What would you do if you summon 20 seconds of insane courage? What could you achieve? Right? And those are my thoughts on taking action. At the end of the day, all of these things lead to taking the first step. And the first step is essentially the most important. You just need to get yourself in and you'll be okay. So that leaves me with the opening story of this session. What did you think was the moral of the story when the soldiers found a way back to camp using the wrong map? There are many conclusions. For me, sometimes it's about taking the first step, even though you might not know where this journey will lead. I think Martin Luther King did have this quote, and it says something like, take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the end of the staircase or the entire staircase. All right. So with that, I wish you a lot of courage. I wish you a lot of confidence. And I wish you a lot of success in taking action in anything that you believe in. All right. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if anything about this resonates with you. Hui Ting says, very useful lessons. Taking action can be uncomfortable, but it's the first step. Yep. There's no perfect plan or perfect moment. Just start doing. Absolutely. And the third, of course, is 20 seconds of insane courage. Just means it gets easier every time you come forward and speak up. Yep. And it gets easier because you are not as afraid. And secondly, you become better at it the more that you do it. Serena, my mom says, respectfully hold others as your precious teachers. Of course. Always. And I was sharing with the NUS students at the end of the final session of the program that a lot of things that I share and a lot of things that I do, it's because I was guided in this way through the generosity of my mentors and the generosity of my teachers who taught me, despite me being that nasty student who doesn't want to study. And I'm always grateful for everything they have done for me and their generosity. Okay. So I wish you all the best. Let me know if this worked out well for you. Let me know if this got you thinking about something. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, it's time. What are you waiting for? It's time to subscribe. I think we are at 69 subscribers, very, very close to 100. And for everyone who's here, thank you for coming back week after week after week to listen to me, to listen to my guests, and appreciating the thoughts that we have to share with you, knowing that it is not the perfect show and I am not the perfect host, but you're still willing to come back and listen to me. And I'm very, very appreciative of that. Right. Have a good weekend, and I will see you next week at 3 o'clock. Bye-bye.